So this is Cal Cat, the Cal Catster, and this is the making of we're finally getting around to the Dinobot episode. Um, there is really no script here. I just wanted to put a bunch of characters together and search through all the toy boxes and all that, got everybody together, and decided that, well, we did that big elaborate thing that was a trilogy of. It wasn't really a trilogy. It was technically two trilogies, two 1 hour trilogies that were combined into a 3 hour. It was a 3 hour, 3 hours for the one and 3 hours for the other. The two storybook stories from the last season. The third season. We're still in the third season technically, so this is another episode continuing third season, but not that story arc. That's what I mean. So that other story arc was kind of the early Cybertron War, the end of the. It was kind of a reflection of the end of when Transformers, Autobots, and Decepticons became Maximals and Predacons. Kind of hinted at kind of that universe, that area. This story is clearly set after that, but it's also now because you got like the whole Beast Wars thing with Beast Wars having actually been 30 years ago in the 1990s, almost 40 years ago, and having it be like 30 years ago, and having it be like 30 and having it be like okay, it was supposed to be 300 years after the Great War ended, and the Great War is said to have ended in the 2020s. So it would be either the 2010s or the 2020s. So that would make that Beast Wars stuff at the very beginning and tail end of the 24th century. It doesn't really work because they treated it as though it was the 1990s, and then it was 300 years after the 1990s, which would be the late 23rd. The late 24th, not the early 25th century, in other words. And they just kind of played with it. And then some sources say 25th, it's the 25th century in Beast Wars. This timeline tends to go with the idea that it kind of follows Starship Locations, because Starship Locations. And so it's 2403, 2404, or it's 2026 now, or it's Beast Wars time, 2404 to 2408. So around there, it's Beast Wars time. Quite a bit after the Great Wars have ended and Cybertron and everything. But clearly in this version of the timeline, it's still the 2020s. In this version of the timeline, the Robotech people are still off on their mission to Tyrol. They return in the Zor-Lord's story arc that we did earlier. When they return in the 2030s. That hasn't happened yet. We're in the 2020s. We're in 2026. They haven't returned yet. We have a Robotech ship called the Echelon that they get a hold of in the other stories. That's also present in the Star Trek one. And we have a lot of, back and forth with that. So there's it's not essential to know what it is, or just, we're not really following a script here. I'm just screwing around with toys. And like the last Star Trek one. Just kind of think, we'll just put them all together. And, I was trying to think of something to do with the characters that was new and different, and borrowed a little from one of the TJ Omega blogs where he discusses the Beast Wars era and Transformers Animated and what happened to those people in there. A little bit of that, but not enough to say credited with it, because it didn't. The only thing I used was, what happened to Sorry Sunday? He wanted to find out what happened to Black Arachnia and Alita 1 and all that. I wanted to find out what happened to Sorry Sunday. Also, I wanted to go back to the Wreckers stories. I was fond of the Rodimus Primal thing, the Wreckers. But it can't be the same Hot Rod, obviously, so it's a different one. I wanted to have my Junkions and Wreck-Gar and the other Wreck-Gar in there. There's going to, of course, be a Wreck-Gar scene later. 2 Wreck-Gars. The mini Dinobots haven't been seen since, I believe, Lexicons. I don't know what they're up to. And some other special characters will show up from Lexicons and Legacy. We'll go, oh, that guy, whatever. So there's going to be a few that show up. They go, oh, that guy. What are you up to? in 2026. What's that? What? And because it's a multiverse, they can be from later on in the other future, so they don't have to necessarily be the same people. I mean, I wouldn't have Talomsky show up. In other words, because that wouldn't make sense. She wouldn't be around yet. But I could have the other ones, unless she's earlier Talomsky. I better not do that. So she won't. Now the original T.L. Aaron story, Talomsky was a dude, but I wanted it to be a lady. It was funnier. but yeah, so we have we have some other characters showing up. We will have some classic legacy guys show up and stuff. The Dinobot mission and everything. I was kind of thinking that the beginning of this was sort of an ending of the mission, and like the mission is successful and they end the mission. But I think what's going on is the teaser begins in the middle of the action instead, and the mission starts to go wrong as they're about to leave and go back to their missions. Be something different. It's a little different. So it doesn't have anything to do with the origins of Transformers and Beast Wars. It's just them having fun with their mission, going on out there and doing that. So that's what I'm going to do. So, I'm going to make up a credit title page and all that, and who's in it and all that. The mini Dinobots just have a slightly higher pitched voice than the Dinobots. Like, instead of me, Grimlock, he's like, me, Grimlock. So it's not pitch bent in the story, it's just my voice doing it. The one time Frank Welker, many years ago. I'm not out of a job yet. My sound wave is pretty good. I did happen to find the Transformers Adventure / Transformers War for Cybertron Soundwave. Found all his parts. His wheels had fallen off. He had these little wheels. He was kind of a car. Throughout my back, trying to move toy boxes around, and that was fun for the last couple of days. But at least I got everything else back together, and it's a little better, and everything's a little better. So I didn't get around to filming any of this yet until tonight, and I just wanted to test footage and see what it looked like, and put things together and see what that looks like, and see what it is. It appears to just be generally a Dinobot, the story with the Dinobots in it, and the mini Dinobots, because just them alone having a gag is not as funny. And some other fans have said, why do they always sound prehistoric and derpy? That's the way to do. And they shouldn't all be derpy all the time. So what I did is I played it up like, okay, they just talk derpy. They have a little bit of intelligence. Otherwise, they would be completely incapable of doing anything. So they do. They're not like really dumb. They're a little smart. The Metallica stuff. It's kind of like how they played Grimlock in the Allspark series, where he was kind of derpy sounding, but he was actually Metallico, and he knew how to do that. He had his wrecker passed there a little bit. I have the Springer and the Wheeljack from the other timeline, and RCs, and it's great. The Springer comes back, and he's right in character, and he's on the screen, and he's going to do that Christian Bale Batman voice again. That's great. It's not him, it's just the voice. Springer. This ought to be funny if he sounded like a cross between Christian Bale and Clint Eastwood. I thought that'd be kind of funny. But yes, that is funny. And of course, Mark's Cards gave us the Wreck-Gar voice. He's not here right now, but I'll do the Wreck-Gar voice the whole time. I'll do the voice. What are we doing, Mark? Come, my Decepticons, or Autobots, I'm confused. But in the movie, he sounded more like, oh, I popped up, destroyed by. That'd be one of the other guys. That'd be one of the other guys. So we'll see what happens as I make this thing come together into something coherent. Haven't really had time to sit down and go like, okay, I'm going to start till tonight. So interesting idea here. Reminiscent of the Dino Chrysler Dinobot thing from 9 years ago. Reminiscent of it. They're finding they found the planet. They were going on a mission. I hinted at their mission a couple episodes ago. For this, there was 2 3-hour movies that were the last 2 that we did. That was this last season, based on newer lexicon stuff. To say 20-year-old newer lexicon stuff. This is not. The stuff just before also hinted at a mission that was before that. Transformers meets Star Trek. Star Trek locations meets the Transformers. Also hinted at that they're off on a mission. I wanted to do the lesser characters who aren't the main ones again, because then you don't need to worry about continuity issues. You can just say, okay, there. Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the Lexicon Springer and the Lexicons RC and them who are different anyway. So you don't need to worry about that. But yeah, having Prime and Megatron show up or something, or have it be yet another test from the aliens. That's not what this is. It's not another test. It's not going to be 3 hours. It's going to be about 90-minute movie, I think, probably. Not going to be 3 hours. And I like the idea of them like saying, "Oh, we're a successful mission," and then it goes south. That's great, because of course it does. Yeah, that works. Well, we'll see how it goes south. I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, but beginning a story like that sets up the mystery. Kind of like the Winter Twins back in the day. Genius author girls who went on to do a bunch of other stuff. A bunch of books with McAfee's son, something like that. And I think I could be wrong. I think so. Older guy, but they were hanging out with him. It was nothing weird though, I don't think. And they said start at the end when they were writing their novel. They start with an ending, go back and do it. That's an author trick, and I decided to do that here. Let's start with what I think is the end. It's not really the end, but I start with what I think is the end. I get what they meant. Usually when I do a outline of something, it's usually not that. I usually don't start with the end. I have an idea how it's going to end, and then go from there. But usually I don't literally start with the end and work backward, because I would get lost, and that wouldn't be good. But here, I think a simple mission to a planet, they've got to find a ship and do some things, is fine. Sure, do that. Yeah, they encounter different weird time-lost Transformers. Good guys, bad guys, whatever. Of course, the Dinobots would refer to them as good guys or bad guys, because they're Dinobots. But they're actually smarter than they appear. They're just a little slow on the uptake. And yeah, so another thing that was pulled out of the Autobot Arc. Ooh, some more guys that appear in the story, not from the other one, and the Autobot Arc and the Nemesis, and Unicron and the other guy. Not sure what I'm going to do with those, but I pulled them out of the box. Here we have our guys on the set. I built the set like several days ago, but yeah, I couldn't actually do anything on it because, yeah, back was on that. And then I was like, well, let's just leave the set up. Go back to the people on the bridge standing there, and had some other guys on the bridge and stuff, and some clues as to some weirdness that's going to happen. There was a guy called Dracatron, or Draconus Prime or something, Dracatron, bad guy. And he had the Scythe of Destiny, and I tried to find his wing, could not find his wing anywhere. I thought, why do I need to rebuild that guy? I can just say they found the Scythe. They found it. That's one of the things they're looking at, and the Energon. So there was this guy, Dracatron, something like that. Not Dracatron, it was something similar. And Dragonstorm, that's what it was. And he was like this really cheap one, but he had these funny wings, and yeah, he's lost one of his wings. But there's versions of him. There's expensive versions of him, and there's cheap versions of him out there. I don't need to buy another one. I really don't need to do that. It doesn't matter. He was a bad guy in the story, and so although my show predicted the appearance of Amalgamus Prime, and he has a scythe of destiny, he carries the sickle of destiny. So that was interesting. So yeah, Amalgamus Prime also has one, and also and the Forge of Solus Prime isn't just the hammer of Solus Prime. It also refers to the Forge of Prima, who is Primus's alter enema, and Prima, her forge is actually a universe, like a solar system where they built Cybertron, Unicron, and all that stuff. 10 minutes. It won't ramble then of tape on this camera. Halfway through. Yeah, one day. So and it's going to be 90 minutes roughly altogether. So we have, we have sort of a goofy Dinobot story, making of, and we have comedy. It's not like the other two that were a little more serious. There were jokes in the other two, but they were more of a drama. This is a comedy. The Dinobots are incompetent, holding on to the energon cubes. During the course of the story, as you're seeing it here, we did most of the scenes with the Dinobots, and in the other act, and each time they cut away from the rocks and they're taken between Planet movie, I believe 9 and 13. There's at least 4 or 5 times for all the rocks that I want to stick in footage from here. So this is going to fill that in. Let's fill it in, but it's supposed to be there. We need to find out what happened to Springer, why he's not there, that kind of thing. The thin plot, it's the Calcat thin plot. The stories, the Dinobots need to guard some energon that keeps getting taken. We find out that we've got some appearances by main characters from other shows. We got Crasher as a transdector for Miko, which is cool. we got another transdector, Bumblebee's sister, the new Bumblebee, Jenna McLeod. We have she's at one scene, and I think there's one other. There's and then the 2 Terran versions of Nightshade, of course, and some others. The Regent and the Invid Regis are there because in this timeline they haven't been defeated yet, but they're actually they have memories of their future time being defeated 3 years earlier in the Sentinels story, because to them it was 2023 and it was 2035 or whenever that story took place. So they have awareness of the dimensions changing around them. So they have that. And that's what enables them to have psionic powers as they're hoped to. Yeah. So there's no invasion of the Earth in this one. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. It's just that I wanted to show like I wanted to bring these characters back, and yeah, it's sort of a multiverse thing. It's kind of spoofing the multiverse of Marvels and whatever, but unlike those movies where they have to do homework and convince you that the timeline has changed, the Cal Cat version of this kind of stuff, they just do it and they just say, "Oh, I just came from another dimension." That's all you need to say. It doesn't make sense, but it makes more sense than having to explain it. So you know, and they will know. I'm just here because the other dimension opened up and I came through the other dimension. And if Starscream is messing with the Skywarp device, he's probably messing with the whole thing, inadvertently making people go in and out of space-time from other dimensions. So there's your explanation. It's not totally serious version of that. It's just a silly, goofy version of that. And the Autobots are still moving planets, so that's fun too. Yeah, so this is the end of that, and that's kind of what's going on in this making of. They have that. Okay, so this is our little Dinobot fan film. Making of, and it was done in a day, and to check and see the things that finally got to the Dinobot fan film. It's a one-off. It's just a story. It kind of fits in with the other ones, and yeah, it's kind of it. It's a Dinobot. It's fun. It's going to be fun. It's more of an amusing one. Very simple episode. I don't know if it's canon with the other ones, I'm sure, but I don't know if it necessarily has anything that's groundbreaking. It's just a fun, like, I wanted to do a story with the Dinobots in it. And I had them for a long time and the ships too. And then we're not going to use the ship models at the end, even though we have pulled them out. Not how to use them, but yeah, they're that would be confusing. So they're just gonna sit there. So yeah, the space planet thing, the Dinobot thing, Springer's daughter from the tragic stories of the other story. But she was already back, so the story is a predestination paradox, a bootstrap paradox, in that because she is back, how did she get there? The story kind of explains it. And with it, like, oh yeah, yeah, she's actually from, yeah, they brought her back. There's one of them. And then there's other arachnids and everything. So the universe is kind of screwed up. There's two black arachnids and there's two the other ones. And yeah, you can't fix it at this point because it's so there's going to be all these multiversal transformer things showing up whenever there's a future episode. Because yeah, the mess that was created by the Sentinel story is kind of like, well, we can't fix it, so let's just do stories that don't have the main ones for a while. Yeah, we tried to fix it with the Zor Primes one, but yeah, couldn't fix it. But it's fine. It's fun. It's perfectly fine. It's fun. It's a fun story, and they all work out. We're not going to do an Invid invasion story because that would be impossible. We don't have Invids. Now we were able to do the Sentinels because we could just the Sentinels meets the Transformers basically, and have like them as Transformers and Robotech combined together. That worked. That worked for that. That doesn't work for this. The others coming back and realizing their fate and all that goes with the other timeline as well. If they were pushed ahead to the future, then the Regent and the Regis would be aware of the other stuff. It actually kind of sets that up. It's like, okay, whether they're on their way, it kind of sets it up. Yeah, it's like, okay, the Regent and the Regis merge with some Transformers on their way to the Sentinels planet, so that in the 2030s they would be on the Sentinels planet with those other guys. That's kind of what happened. Yeah, that works. Instead of invading Earth, they invaded the Robotech universe. But yeah, the Transformers Transtech universe. Yeah. So there's your Dinobot story, such as it is. It's fine though. It's cute. It does what it set out to do. It does its thing. Yeah, it's a middle-aged guy playing with his toys like he's 15 again. That's the whole point, right? Anyway, so yeah, so cool. Why not? Why not? You can do whatever fan film you want to. The ones that critique over the other stuff, you can do what you want to. It's just for me. I suggest that doing a fan film, you do build sets. You can paint them up in cardboard and stuff. Don't just put a bunch of boxes in the background. I used to do that when I was younger, and I decided to make sets since 2001 and on. Make sets, make it look kind of like you're on a Transformer planet. They got very elaborate for the Corrosion of War series in the 2020s. It's because the pandemic was going on and there was nothing else to do. But yeah, there was that. But also there was also that in that case we were able to do, ships and things like that. Pandemic. I did a few more scenes here with those guys because I kind of left them out. So I wanted that. So they're all scenes are all in the movie. There's no pickups. It's all in the movie. And I just wanted to have that happen because yeah. So I set that up. They go here and they go there. Here they are. A full day of filming, and yeah, I think it's all done. And if there's any more pickup pieces in there later on, sure, but it doesn't have to be. If it's an hour, it's fine. I think it's going to be over an hour. So yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to apologize for my own stuff. It's gonna work. It's gonna work, even if it doesn't have much of a script. Having fun with your toys, going on a mission. Very reminiscent of that Dino-Rag or Super Saiyan thing from back in the day with MGO, from the MGO channel. I didn't do it. I was just reviewing his stuff. He does similar things with his sets and toys. Background. Um, similar. Yeah. It's a perfectly acceptable version of the medium. Some other people get all dramatic and do like whole stop motion thing, and some of them do it right with the sets and the stop motion at the same time. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. It's going to take forever. No, so I want to just do it. Yeah, so I included lesser characters that aren't around as much, and had them do stuff before the events of the Robotech story in the 2030s. So yeah, they won't affect the timeline in any way. They're doing their own thing. So, but yeah, it doesn't change anything. Yeah, and it would be a different timeline anyway. It's multiverse. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and some characters came back, some didn't. I decided that it shouldn't be it shouldn't be an anagram of the Bree character who passed away, but rather the Bumblebee character. It should be her sister Jen, who's now the Bumblebee character, because that makes more sense. That character that's based on the McLeod character, the Jenna McLeod character, I should say, not the real person. The Jenna McLeod character is the real person. Is the fictional version of the person. That's not what this is an anagram for with the Springer and the RC and the daughter thing. That was from a spec script from Transformer Legacy. That went there. And I just adapted that, and I decided to address that. Yeah. And Transformers can reboot themselves. Yeah. Sort of like, yeah, they're robots. They can rebuild themselves. Yeah. Death is not an option. They can be rebuilt. I mean, really, they could be. As one of the fan films did with some of the Transformers, they wanted to do there was a fan film out there where they used footage from the Japanese Transformer spin-offs, and they wanted to establish that some of them came back from the dead. They were rebuilt, so they did that, and then they went back and used footage from the show. Don't do that, but they did. But yeah, this character had already been reintroduced. It's like, oh, she's just there. Why is she there? So I just said, no, this story explains that. Springer jumped back and brought her back. Yeah, copied her, brought her back. But yeah, the other Springer. And yeah, even though it's a Grimlock story, it's a Dinobot story. The Dinobots themselves as characters are a one-note joke, sort of. Ooh, they're prehistoric. They're cave bots. In the kind of, yeah, they don't do much in the story, but that's the idea, I think. Yeah, they just did, yeah. I didn't want to do anything extra with any other juxtaposition, characters, timeline. I wanted to establish that the two Nightshades, that one of them had become a Decepticon, was reprogrammed to be a Decepticon. But the other one was an Autobot, so it's fine. But yeah, they're the Terrans. The Dinobots are Terrans, and yeah, technically other ones are Terrans. Anyone that were built on Earth are Terrans. Yeah, so from that new continuity, which also uses the spark of the Quintus Prime as well. The Quintessence, Quintus Prime, is in there as well. Sort of an all-spark thing. It's one of the more controversial shows, but only because there's a trans character in it, which is weird because they're Transformers. Their gender doesn't matter really. They're robots. They shouldn't worry about that. They shouldn't worry about that. Is what I mean. They shouldn't worry about whether a Transformer identifies as some gender because it's a robot. But okay, yeah. So I wanted to establish that at least that the other Nightshade one isn't bad because she's bad because she was programmed to be a Decepticon by that other Decepticon in the other story. They could program her back and she wouldn't be a Decepticon. So yeah, that has nothing to do with her orientation. Oh, yeah. They also established that the Invid King guy liked Springer because he was the same color, or same, trying to be opposite color scheme thing. But they discovered that the Raksha from the other timeline, the modern Raksha, there, the flatline, the evil version, she is also has the amalgamous energy inside her from the other thing, which they later would call Dark Energon, but it's amalgamous energy. It's kind of fun. And she and Springer go back into that other time warp thing. And hot on their trail is the Invid Queen, who realizes they were going to be destroyed and rescued them. But yeah, so they don't have a loom in this universe. They don't have like a universe-eating creature that's eating the universe. They don't have a Langolier thing in there. They don't have they don't have Time Lords, really. They'd be the Primes, I guess, would be the Time Lords. But yeah, doing other Prime stories is problematic because they're Primes, they're not... Yeah, once you have demigods show up and say, like, okay, we can just go, here's our staff, clonk. The Scythe of Destiny is also the Scythe of Destiny of Amalgamous Prime, who was the first shape-shifting transformer. But I did not end up buying that toy. I could have, but I didn't like the design. It was a little too weird. Oh well. Yeah, the new Primes. Yeah, I like. I like the idea of Liege Maximo being kind of a bold creature thing, but I think he should have been red instead of green. Or just better making him red. A little more devilish than a swamp creature. Red or fiery yellow. I think something really bright, not green. Green is just odd. Yeah, should be yellow, reddish yellow, like highlights. Similar to Dracatron. Ooh, because he also has like bull ear scythe things. Yes. So the forge of Solus Prime is her hammer, but there's also a forge of the Primes, which is different. That's where they were forged. That's where Cybertron was built. It's the forge of the Primes. And you'll notice that in the credits, it's the credit sequence looks like the forge of the Primes going slowly, like that's the online freeware nebula of the Primes there. That's online freeware nebula. I have a bunch of those freeware nebulas. Anyway, so yeah, there you are. There's my Phantom. Here on the 25th, I believe. July 25th. Yeah, Saturday, July 25th. Okay, making of. These are pickup scenes of the movie. This is on the end of the movie, because it kind of doesn't end. It has the Autobots going back to the ship, but it doesn't end. So adding to the making of is the pickup scene here. A little more Dinobots, because they jumped over to Springer doing his thing and didn't really explain what was going on there. So let's do that. Death. I become death, destroyer of worlds. So this is Calicat the Calicaster. About 2.5 hours after the first pass on this film, because it was done really quick during one day. So I added an ending, kind of more of a succinct ending. It didn't need anything else added to the character pacing. It needed something more that it was establishing Grimlock was a main character in the story. So I kind of keep the ending that's there, but add this on the very end. Put this on the very end with them walking around, so that we get a sense of them doing something different, and they're connected to the other story, and we get to see why the Black Arachnia from Animated is there as Miko. We also get to see that scene kind of got chopped or something. Something happened to it. So we did the scene where Jenna McLeod meets her. There may be an earlier scene like that, so I just said, "Oh, did we meet earlier?" I kind of said that in the story. So. As if we did, then she just the Springer scene now makes more sense because one of the characters, I think it was the Black Arachnia, explains that she's meant to show up there to make sure the time stream happens as it should. She's some sort of time lord thing. They don't say specifically, but yeah, it doesn't turn into one of those holodeck stories with it being, oh, it's a hologram thing and it was all a test. It's not that. It's that she knows things. She knows just perception things. That's all. She just knows things. She's not psychic, but she has psionic. There's a suggestion that she knows other universes, like some of them do. And Grimlock kind of knows other universes as well, but he's not too bright, so he doesn't get that. That's what he's looking at. He does get it a little bit. Perceptor then reports that indeed Springer has returned and Flatline has returned as well. And there needed to be something like that in there just to wrap things up, because this is not a setup for 2 more movies or anything like that. It's not that. It's not. I just wanted to establish that a little bit of a punchier ending, and just to have some of the Dinobots in it and them in it, and have a little bit of closure. I always like a closure in my movies. I like my movies to be like, I'm going to tell a wild story or a weird story, bizarre story. I always wanted to have an ending that's actually kind of satisfying. The other ending was a little weak, so I added to the ending. I wanted to appear more like, oh, okay, this is what I meant to do. In this other scene where it's clearly pickup scenes, I did rebuild. I rebuilt part of the. Probably shouldn't have taken the set down, but I rebuilt it enough that you could tell they're somewhere else at this point, and they're all meeting again to probably on the Dinobot ship, and 2 of the Junkions show up and they're helping him, and they're probably near the Dinobot ship. The ship that came earlier, and the Autobot ship came to rescue him. It's not the Echelon, it's some Autobot ship. They didn't say which one. They were going to say what the ships were named, and then I decided, no, it's vague. It doesn't matter what the ships are. Also, you can do anything with the other multiverse if you want to. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't have an episode, a Robotech one, if you really wanted to at some point. But not the invasion. Don't bother doing that. If Rick Hunter came home in this timeline, as he does, they didn't have one. The Master, he stopped the Masters. So in this timeline, the COVID took out the Zentradi, and so the Invid never showed up. Anyway, but yeah, or they got transmutated into Transformers or something. It's fan film. You can do whatever you want. It's shipping. You're shipping your toys. Sure. Sure. Yeah, and I didn't want to throw in the deal about I think it was IDW and Image and some of those other groups that did a Thundercracker becomes an Autobot, like the Megatron becomes an Autobot thing. I didn't want to do either of those things, even though some of the comic books did those later on, because that's kind of silly. And yeah, Thundercracker, the other Seekers were killed in the movie, including Starscream. And they're gone. The OG Seekers are gone. But they did make a new pack of new ones are going out. Yeah, but it's kind of pricey though. So here we have the end of this story. It's coming out later. But I'm not. Yeah, it's probably out of my price range. So there's this movie. This is the conclusion of the movie, and I'll do a second pass on it tomorrow. Put it together. the way it was constructed, it should be fairly easy to do that. And yeah, that's the end of this particular movie with the Dinobots and Springer taking over half of the movie. I think it works. It works as an episode of this season. Maybe these are now the beginning of individual episodes. I don't know. Yeah, which is the case after back in the day, the COVID thing. The Corrosion War Without End, and then did other episodes after that. It may not be the beginning of other. It all depends on that other thing. It actually depends on Star Trek's 60th anniversary. Whether we want to crank out another Star Trek one first, and then see what happens. So yeah, there's no time crunch. There's no budget. There's no we have to finish a certain time. There's no time limit. It's just I wanted to get this done before the end of the month, and beginning of the month, the sojourns you do. I just wanted to get it done and have it be done. So anyways, so yeah, that's that. Transformers. What do you call this? The Rise of the Terrans. Yeah, the Rise of the Terrans. Dinobots are Terrans. Nightshade's a Terran. A bunch of the other ones are Terrans. And I think I have Twitch, but I don't have the other guy. One of the others somewhere. I don't have the motorcycle. I'm not sure what happened. Apparently I have 2 Nightshades. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, she's supposed to be an owl, I guess. Yeah, the Dinobots never transformed, not once. Keep doing that gag. They never transform. Part of the problem is the same thing with them transforming into vehicle mode. Is without stop motion, a toy car transformed into a car, just sitting there, being pushed along, looks really, really fake. And it's okay if they're plastic robots, because then they're kind of in your imagination. But if it's a car, it just doesn't. It really doesn't work. I know there's some stop motion things out there that manage to make it kind of work, but it really doesn't. It would be screwy, weird. Anyway, so yeah, this is the Transformer. So, this is Calicat the Calicatster. I was gonna go on ahead and do other things. The making of. I was gonna go on ahead and do other things after putting the Transformers movie together, and I watched the Transformers movie, and that we did, and and I put it together, and it's about 78, 79 minutes, and with the credits, it's 82 minutes. It's not that it's short and needs more padding. It has plenty of padding. What it needs is, it doesn't have padding in the sense that it is trying to fill time. I did shore that up, but it has scenes that seem to go nowhere because there's timey-wimey stuff going on, as Grimlock called it in the story. So rather than just leave it that way and have the framing device be okay, they just left it that way and it's just a weird sort of thing, he'll solve it later, Elseworld style. This is a one-off story, so it needs to have a framing device that pulls you into the story. We don't know why the alternate Springer is doing what he's doing later on in the story, in the second half. So you don't need to add anything to the beginning or the end. I don't need to add anything to the middle. What you need to do is there needs to be a scene in the beginning, immediately, probably almost a new teaser, kind of, almost a new teaser, and on this new teaser, because the teaser itself is just them preparing to leave on the mission. And I think your framing device should be them explaining to the command staff people, this is the mission we went on and this is what happened, because then that's your framing device. It doesn't need to be like, oh, it's the Q and the primes and all that stuff. And, yeah, I know there's no Q in Transformers, but at the primes, it's not that. It's that it's not the hologram thing. That would be goofy. That they're, yeah, the mission's beginning and ending are kind of vague, and in the other relationships in it are kind of vague. It would make sense if there was a slight pre-teaser, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, which would make it longer, incidentally, and then an ending that actually is back to the court thing, whatever. And I came up with an idea where it's not necessarily the holodeck and stuff. It's not that, and it's just straight on through. That's what it's going to be, straight on through. No cuts, and because it doesn't really have a script. It's just a train of thought kind of thing, tying into all the other stuff that was going on. The device, the MacGuffin in it is the Scythe of Destiny that becomes like the second half. Yeah, that Scythe thing should have been introduced in this in the teaser, like right away. So it's there as the framing device. Later on, and Springer's issue should have been right there, thus explaining why he leaves, like for half of the movie, where he appears later. Yeah, so they would explain that. It needs a little explanation. It doesn't need narrative necessarily explanation. It needs like story. Yeah, show don't tell. A little bit to tell because they're not really moving. But yeah, so I'm gonna reshoot a little beginning and the ending, the sort of bumpers, bookends on either end, not bumpers. Bumpers are for commercials. But bookends shouldn't affect the overall size of it really, but they would help the story flow. So I tore down a set that I really didn't like anyway, that I was going to use for something else, and rebuilt gonna do some retakes here on the 27th. I thought it was the 28th already. It's the 27th July. Try to get this out before the second meeting thing with track people. That hasn't happened yet. But yes, yeah, the cast. They're not really the Starship Locations people. Yeah, I'm gonna go meet with the Star Trek people. Yeah, we're gonna discuss the new Star Trek movie. Yeah, no, I'm not. It'd be awesome if they asked me. I can consult. I know a lot about Star Trek and Transformers.